Hello, Earth. Last week we spoke. Nick Rekieta had just been arrested, and then sirens were going off, and people were running, and I had to go. But I've attempted to watch as many videos as possible of people spilling tea, and mostly talking shit. And it's been a wild and exciting week. I made an epic playlist if you're interested, and it's impossible to watch everything. I think it has 1,000 videos now. But I was interested to see when he would come back on live stream, and he did a locals thing. And, he just, no big deal. He's acting like, well, I can't talk about most of it. And some people are good friends and some people suck. And, there's no big surprise there. But I've been talking about Nick Rekieta since, I think, my second video, because he was the Pope of LawTube. He was extremely intelligent and informative and, of course, cutting edge and biting with his humor. I'm one of those, I appreciate funny people, even if I don't agree with everything they say. If they're funny once in a while, I will continue to watch them. So I love a lot of LawTube because they're intelligent and usually really funny people. But Nick changed a lot in a really short amount of time. I found him during the Johnny Depp trial. Yes, I'm that basic of a bitch. That's when I got into LawTube, and that's when I fell in love with Emily and all that. But I love Johnny Depp. I watched 21 Jump Street. Yes, I don't care if that dates me. I go way back. Fuck Pirates of the Caribbean. Ed Wood is one of the best movies ever made. Tim Burton is my favorite director. You get it. So, and I lost friends over that situation when I started defending Johnny straight up, and they're like, but believe all women. And I'm like, not this one, because what I do know is he's never been violent with a wife or a girlfriend ever. The man destroys hotel rooms. He does not hurt people. He just straight up doesn't. And I knew she was lying, and I knew that she hit herself to make those marks, and I was vindicated, and I was happy about that. And then I fell in love with all these lawyers and started watching a bunch of lawyers on LawTube. And I watched Nick Rekieta go from one of the most intelligent stream of consciousness speakers to a bumbling drunken idiot in a very short amount of time. And I have never been like super deep into alcohol, but I have gone through an addiction. I came down with MS 15 years ago, and I came down with spots in the part of my brain where there's pain and sensitivity, which usually one of the later stages of MS, people feel like they have shingles all over their body. And for me, that was my first symptom, because MS is unique to every single case, and we're snowflakes, and Murphy's Law is my life. And so I came down with one of the worst symptoms right away. So they put me on painkillers, because otherwise there's no point in going through life. I couldn't function. It did not take long for me to take an extra one a day, and then a couple extra. And then I knew people who had extra that I could buy from. And then I had my son. I actually had it under control through his entire pregnancy. I was good pregnant mom with a low tolerance, and then they fucked up the epidural. I had a natural birth with my first child, and I wish I did that with my son. And when they mess up the epidural, you get spinal headaches, and my spinal headaches lasted months, and I needed to function, and I got some medicine from doctors, but I had a lot of other illegal resources, and I quickly went off the deep end. And I went into rehab for opiates about 10 years ago. Actually, it'll be 11 years, September. Yay me. And I've learned how to manage my pain, and it hasn't been easy, but Suboxone is a miracle medicine, because you can't have euphoria on it, you cannot OD on it, and it does actually help with pain. And so I wish there were more pain meds like that. But watching Rekieta go down the path that he's gone, I'm like, this is more than alcohol. And he was talking about doing a dry January, where he would quit drinking for the entire month of January. And I was saying then, I'm very, very worried about that, because he doesn't realize how bad his problem is. And I have known 2 people to quit drinking, and the next morning, the day they decide to go sober, they went into seizures. And one of them did not survive that day. And both of those people were in denial about how bad their addiction was. And that's what I saw in Rekieta. And so I was kind of surprised that he survived January, frankly. But it turns out all he was doing is not drinking on stream, and he's still drinking at home. And it turns out doing a shit ton of cocaine. He became rail thin, and everybody suspected there was more to it than just the booze. And I have to admit, I'm not the hugest fan of PPP from Kino Casino, but their opening the day that Rekieta got arrested made me laugh my ass off when he comes in and he's just like, it's happening. I'm like, all right, you're right. I'm gonna have a little schadenfreude right now. And that was fun. But this is very fucking serious, and I was legitimately upset when I saw his arraignment and they were like, part of it is child endangerment. I'm like, that is unacceptable. That's why I went into rehab, so my kids wouldn't ever have to experience something like that. And that's one of the things that drives me to stay sober, which is apparently extremely rare for people to actually pull off. There's a weird object floating through the sky, and I have to know what that is. It has to be like a balloon or something. Let's find out together. It just went that way. Do you see it? I don't see it. Oh well. Isn't it beautiful out there though? Anyway, that was an exciting aside. So Rekieta went to jail for a minute and he posted bail. And turns out that Aaron, his friend who was saying, oh, I had to feed the kids SpaghettiOs and stuff. Turns out maybe he wasn't so full of shit, right? Sounds like it was everything he implied it was. So this is what I think happened. I think Rekieta grew up in a very sheltered situation where he got to college and he basically probably married the first person he fucked. And that's not always the best thing, because you need to explore. You need to experiment. You need to realize maybe this person isn't the one. Maybe I like these kinds of bodies. Maybe I don't. Maybe I like boys. Maybe I like girls. Maybe I like different colors and flavors. You should do all of that. That's what college is for, I thought. So basically, I think he just got married very young, and he was trying, like, he was a good religious guy when he first got on the air, and then he became very much less so, because I think it's human nature. You know, we have a sexual drive for a reason. And the fact that his wife was okay with it makes me okay with it. If she was cool with it, then more power to you. And if a throuple works and a quadruple and whatever makes you happy. But you're never going to stay happy. One thing that I really wanted to point out, because nobody has said this, is Aaron is talking about how he fell in love with Mrs. Rekieta. And that they connected deeply. I did see a couple comments. They were taking a lot of Molly, and that is an absolutely legitimate point. Molly does do that to you. But I also have been thinking that I'm sure he's mad. He's mad that he's getting a divorce. He's mad that his wife left him. I'm sure he's got a few things that he's upset about. What better revenge than to say, I'm in love with your wife? And that way it hurts both his wife and Nick. And so that's why I think he said he was in love. I'm not saying he's not in love, but he didn't have to tell everybody. And I think that's why he was telling everybody. He's telling everybody everything. I love his speaking voice, but yeah, he seems like a little bit of a clout fiend. And then there are the people who come out in defense of Nick right away. And nobody's surprised that Ethan Ralph is a pig and that he would defend it. But I mean, now they're blaming the kids. Somebody's saying, well, who's saying it's not the teenager's cocaine? There is not a teenager on earth. There's not a 16-year-old kid on earth that can get their hands on an ounce of cocaine. That is too much cocaine. And do you hear yourself? What is the matter with you? Well, this is an opportunity for the kids to step up. And all of these defenses of Nick are just ridiculous. I can't believe they're saying these things. At first, I was a little disappointed in uncivil law, but I think he was really, really honest. He fucking cried. He cried, and he cried because he defended Nick for a minute, and then he saw the report and he's like, I didn't know it was this bad. And Kurt was the only one that actually went over the Montegraph lawsuit. Everybody else was afraid to even touch it because it was Nick, and Nick had some sort of magic power over LawTube. But I will say, I am disappointed in Good Logic. I loved Joe. During the Johnny Depp trial, he was so honest and so clever, and like he and I were just like singing from the same sheet of music. And then after the Johnny Depp trial, he started defending the January 6th thing, and like I'm not trying to upset anyone, but it happened, and I am very upset that 4 police officers commit suicide after that, and he is trying to portray it as if it didn't happen to the extent that it did, and I was stunned that he did that. But I also understand that he has a very particular audience, and that's exactly what they want to hear. But dead cops aren't cool, so that's what upset me about that. But I still would listen to Joe once in a while if he wasn't talking politics, which is more rare lately. But he came in hot with the crazy defense of Nick, and I was disappointed by that. I realized that, okay, this is... What I love about Joe is if he were to come onto a panel and there was some sort of heat, usually between Bronca and a woman, he was really good at tampering that down, and he was very polite and respectful, and he seems to bring out the best in people to be reasonable, or I think those people are also on their best behavior around him. But I was really, really sad to see him defend Nick to the degree that he did. At first, it made sense. He's like, first, we don't know what's going on, guys. We don't know the details. Then the details came out, and it was like, there's really not a whole lot of defense you can go here. Sean was reasonable. Sean made me upset because he yelled at the parents of the Florida shooting, and I didn't like his diatribe about that, and I unsubbed from him. But since then, he has earned my respect back, and I won't just dislike someone for one opinion, because I know that mine are very different from others too, and I don't like it when they do that. Anyway, so Sean's great. Kurt, earning my respect more and more every day. He handled a drunk stream with Nick really, really well. Nick was trying to embarrass him. He was trying to say racist things about Michelle Obama and get Kurt to, I don't know, blush or puke, one of the two. And Kurt handled it really, really well. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're good people. I'm resubbing, Mr. Kurt. And then I was surprised, and yet not surprised at all. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention real quick, Runkle of the Bailey. So when it first happened, I learned because I was watching the Karen Reed trial on Runkle of the Bailey, because Emily was doing something, and somebody said, did you see that Nick got arrested? And Ian actually said he's never lied before. He lied that day, because he goes, yes, I did hear that Nick got arrested, and I'm not going to talk about it because I don't find it legally interesting at this time. Very classy way to not piss off part of your audience, but you're a fucking criminal defense lawyer, Ian. There's no way everything about this isn't legally fascinating to you. It has to be, but you're being loyal to a friend and protecting your... I dug it, but I was like, you're lying. customer. Bye-bye.